Afternoon. Rather surprised to see so many of you still here. I thought you'd all be on silage. No money, well, glad you said it. So we've had a good sort of introduction this morning into all the sort of things that we need to consider. I'll put a little bit more detail on it, a little bit more science as to why we're doing things, and how best to hopefully get what you want out of your clover, and maybe something a little bit different as well. If I start us off, might not start us off. Can do that. If I start you off as to where you might be, your variable costs are the things that are significant and things that you can change relatively quickly. If you look at, farmers argue plenty of times, what sort of cow do I want, what sort of literage do I want to produce to be a profitable business? And it really doesn't matter which. You can do them all badly, or you can do them all well. This slide is showing us basically where you're 5,000, 7,000, 9,000, whatever litres per cow you are, you can do it quite inefficiently. And the difference between those two lines is over a tonne of concentrate per head fed. So if we're over a tonne of concentrate per head fed, what's not working? Well, that's inefficiency of forage. So that could be the fact that there's no legume within that system, but it could be everything else we talked about this morning in terms of the soil conditions and the grazing system and everything else that could be having an impact. We've also got more challenging weather conditions. I don't have to tell you about that. But actually over on the east it's getting drier. This is a slide of grazing days, how many grazing days you've got. And over on the west coast, you've got over 300 grazing days. Well, in actual fact, the grass doesn't stop growing all year. No, it's growing days then. We've got growing days. So we've got more than 300 growing days, and the grass is now almost at silage level, and we still haven't got cattle grazing them in lots of situations. So we've got challenges of how do we adapt, what sort of swards are we going to look like to try and do with it. And then also I was asked to say a little bit about forage for knowledge that you can get access to all the time, every week with AHDB. And I just wanted to draw your attention to these things. What they've got on there now is an average. 2016 to 2020 is an average. And then you've got more recent years of actually what it is. If you only look at averages, you get totally confused, because average, it looked absolutely perfect. But if I show you the conditions that it actually was in 2018, 2019 and 2020, there's a massive difference. Managing grass in 2019, Andre was talking about not having those spikes of over 100. Well, we didn't. We were up at 80, down to 40 kilograms of dry matter per day growing. It was a beautiful season to manage grass. And yet either side of that 18 and 20, we got those dry periods coming in. And in that 2018, that dry period knocked our performance massively down in terms of yield at that mid-season when legumes can do their job. So if we were legume rich, that figure wouldn't have looked like that. And then the other one, obviously massive for silage cuts, not quite as deep a trough, but major impact on yield, because 60% of the grass yield will be May and June. So although it doesn't look like a major dip, it was a significant dip on total yield. So what fills those sorts of gaps? Your gaps, this is your grass growth curve, a typical grass growth curve. Every field will have a different grass growth curve, every season, every farm. The grass growth curves will change. There's that balance day that people are now talking about. The blue line might be your demand line for whatever system you're running. You're going to get it right 2 or 3 times a year. You're trying to get it right more often than you can. With grass now, if we're sort of having more erratic weather patterns, grass can't do it on its own. It doesn't matter if it's ryegrass, it doesn't matter if it's cocksfoot, timothy, fescue, festuloleum, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't meet that gap. But your herbs and your legumes will. So meeting that mid-season drought issue is definitely where to go. At either end of the shoulders, there are alternative crops, but I'm not going to talk about them today because I'll get shot down or drowned. If you think about how grass grows first, and how does that fit with the legume, let's think about how grass grows. We keep getting told about 3 leaf stage as to where we should graze it. You graze it too early, you're not getting that solar panel fixing you that energy from the sunlight. If we graze it too late, we've got lost performance. It is going back into the sward for that nitrogen release at a later date, but we'd like to be efficient and put it back in the form of manure. So that 3rd leaf stage is where we're looking at. Shortest turnover period, about a week, 7 days, 6, 7 days. Longest, 42, 45, 50 days. Depends where you are in the season. So that changes. Based on things like, I should have said as my background, I was a scientist and researcher at, first of all, the Welsh Plant Breeding Station. Then it changed to the IGAP, Institute of Grassland and Animal Production, then IGA, then IBAS. I was there through all that stage for 22 and a half years. So this data I'm giving you is from the research science period. And in the last 15 years, I've been out on my own, sharing this information. So basically, where we decide to grow, where we decide to graze, is going to be somewhere along that line. You've got a balance between grass growth and then the senescence, the grass dying away. So the quality, the ME, and everything else has dropped. So where's the best place to put it? So in terms of looking at where to put it, you might be 2,200 kilos of dry matter. If it's a bigger animal, you're up to 2,007. Somewhere in that sweet spot is what you're looking for. We've already got swards of over 3 by now, 3.5. So we're already challenged onto where we go. But in the ideal world, around that 2007 is where we are. I'm coming round to why this is important in terms of where clover fits. If we're in between 2.2 and 2.7, then it can fit quite well for clover, but we need to be grazing it off pretty quickly. All the talk we've had this morning about using nitrogen early, I'm all in favour of a bit of nitrogen early, not so much late. So we think about where we've been. There is a sweet spot. I put this slide in because it's a 1960s slide, so I want to show that none of this is necessarily new. It's just how we have to adapt to things that perhaps we've forgotten about. So that sweet spot of getting your ME, your protein, your fibre, your dry matter is hitting that spot in that sort of place we've put. So where does clover come in? Where's the case for clover? It's got a complementary growth curve to the grass. So you've had that peak of the grass and that shallow spot where it's lost. If you think about where the clover fits, you've got your peak of grass early spring. That's where you can use your nitrogen. That's when grass starts to grow at 5 degrees. That grass is growing at 5 degrees, that's great. It's not affecting the clover whatsoever because the question was, where's my clover gone? It's gone to sleep a little bit through the winter. It doesn't start to grow till it's 8 degrees. So any grass or any nitrogen that you're using in that time for that early part of the season isn't really affecting your clover at all. As long as you take that grass off in form of grazing. If you leave it there like we've got this year, it's going to be a terrible year for clover because it's trying to compete, once the temperature's up there, with something that's already challenging for light, for water, for everything else. So you need to graze it away, so rotational grazing fits. In terms of being afraid that I can't produce as much as I want, with no nitrogen at all, a grass clover sward can do 10 to 12 tons. That little bit of early spring nitrogen can push you even higher. So it's not a worry about I can't make the yield. I can. But in terms of what that clover is doing for you, well, we've got the nitrogen fixation. We talked about that, 150 kilos. It can vary. So it's going to be cost saving. It's going to grow when the grass slows. It's going to give you the value in that sward as it increases in terms of feed value. It's going to improve the soil structure. We've heard that this morning as well. And the water holding capacity, when it does dry, it'll hold it better. And the performance is better across all sorts of managements. We've also heard about the rhizobia bacteria, as we've got on the left-hand side of the screen. We have nice bulbous rhizobia bacteria on the roots, and we've also got mycorrhiza. The mycorrhiza are very host-specific, so they belong to individual plants. If we rip and plough these out all the time, then we will kill them. So having things that are longer-term grassland is what we need to be looking at. I'm not against a plough. I will stick my neck out and say, yeah, I'm quite happy for you to plough, because if you plough and set something up perfectly, that it's a success in year one, in terms of carbon loss, it's a lot less than always going with that diesel, ripping through, trying to put more seed all the time. There's different ways of doing things. I'm not against a plough every now and again. But if everything was perfect, and we can see this year it's not, but if everything was perfect, that clover could do an awful lot of rebalancing that damaged structure within that soil. I'm giving you a bit of science and data now. You've heard that the white clover can improve that soil structure. If anybody who follow the RB209 fertilizer manual and you look up soil structure, if you've got a bulk density, which basically is how compressed it is, bulk density below 1.33 is acceptable. On this slide here, you've got bulk density of the clover here at 1.86, and that's the same clover having had a few weeks of work, I've taken it down to 1.14. So that clover is opening up the soil in terms of the way it grows and the pattern of the root structure and the architecture. And also you've had that comment in terms of it's saving you, or it's improving your nitrogen use efficiency by 25%. We have this idea that when we spread our fertilizer, whatever it is per ton, that ton 100% works. The RB209 fertilizer manual says 60% at best, but actually if you do things right, you can push that up to 75% with the use of clover. So that's whatever price your fertilizer is at the minute, in the upper 300s, you're going to get 75% return on that, not 50. So there's a win straight away. If you think about how this clover works, again, we've heard things of germinal in terms of what's now coming onto the market. I left that institute 15 years ago, and I was working on some of these things at that time. So it takes a long time. But drought-tolerant clover is something that was massively important. Lower phosphate demand clover is, again, another massive driver that was being worked on that is coming down the pipeline. Then the ambiguum cross with the different growing characteristics is, again, very important, and showing you basically the difference on that far end over here, how that clover cannot withstand that drought condition. We are having to look at more plants that are more resilient under this weather pattern we can have. So we heard this morning, Andre, needs to be ryegrass, needs to be ryegrass, needs to be ryegrass. Yeah, in the perfect world, it does need to be ryegrass, but we no longer are in this perfect world. So some of these other plants that might not quite have the digestibility factor are still part of the growing rotation, because that root structure and the infrastructure within the soil is still helping your ryegrasses. So you need to think about how we blend these things. And the point I wanted to get across today, it's not just about clover. I hear and I see a lot of, I've tried growing clover and now it's dominant across my swards, I've got no grass. Or I can't grow clover, it dies out so quickly, all I've got is grass and bare ground. All this is management techniques and choice of varieties and species. So you can control all these to create what you want. So where we're going in terms of plant and root infrastructure is things like plantain and chicory. They might only last a year or two, but that rooting zone has created the right environment to look after everything else for many, many years to come. It's given that earthworm the chance, it's got that oxygen into the system, it's controlled the water flows, and it's controlled some of the nutrient movements within that deeper soil. So these are chicory, plantain, standard ryegrass, then an abalone, which was a more futuristic ryegrass, that's been superseded again by now. Everlasting white clover that we heard this morning is in there on the far end, and some red clover. Their root can get down. Those are 24 inches deep, and they got to the bottom of them within 12 weeks, within 3 months. So that rooting potential is very, very important in terms of protecting our soil structure, protecting our water flows, and giving us a better chance as these weather patterns do what they do. The figure of how many kilos of nitrogen clover will fix, you can't guarantee it. If things are wrong, it might only be 50. If things are right, it might be 350. And whether you get access to it is another big thing. When does it get released? You heard talk this morning about the biggest form of releasing nitrogen out of legumes back to the grass is grazing. If you graze it and then you put the manure back on the soil, that's your nitrogen going back in, isn't it? You will get exudates out of the roots to a certain level. If you cut it, once you cut the top off, the roots release a little bit of nutrient. But primarily, it's that grazing animal. That's what nature's supposed to be. That grazing animal puts that nitrogen back in that system where you want it. It puts it in patches, and then you have to try and deal with it. But in terms of what that's worth this year, we're at least £1 a kilo of nitrogen. We're actually more. But just to make it sense, that's 150 quid, isn't it? On every hectare. And you haven't had a spreading cost. So that's a great value for having the case of clover. We've said, I'll push through this because I've talked about these sorts of things. We need active bacteria on the nodules. And again, Andre was saying, dig it up, have a look. If it's pink, it's fixing nitrogen. If it actually bleeds like blood, then it is really fixing nitrogen for you. If it's white or grey and you cut it open with a little scalpel or even your fingernail, if it's not actually red or pink, then it's doing nothing for you. So old clover that's adapted genetically over years and years and years, it's there in the sward, but it's not giving you hardly anything. A little bit better grazing protein, but that's about it. So it's taking nitrogen from the atmosphere. As I said, it could be anything between 50 and 350. Depends how it's working. The benefits of that clover doesn't all arrive at once, so that grazing animal is giving you that gradual release. So if you're on a rotational grazing system, you've got all that manure landed, you've got time to rest for that nitrogen to work in before it starts coming back on the next regrowth. Set stocking doesn't suit it. Delivered to the rooting zone. So if we look about some of the data of why dairy cows fit this system, because beef and sheep has been on clover for a long, long time. Growth rates of lamb performance and everything else kicks everything else out of the park. In dairy cows, the cow can eat more. It's more digestible. So they can eat more, so the intakes are improving. The highest daily intakes are given when that cow gets a choice. So imagine that you've got this. Imagine that you've got some of your field sown in clover, some of your field growing in grass, sown in grass. Will it make any difference to the cow? Absolutely it does. That cow will decide what it wants to go and graze when. We don't do that because it's a bit of a faff, isn't it? But when you put mixtures together, you've got to start thinking, how do I set this mixture to get the best out of it? Because this is what they want to do. Things like bloat and that sort of thing doesn't seem to be an issue when you give the animal the choice of what it wants to eat. While I mentioned the word bloat, the biggest issue I get with bloat is bull-in heifers. Because bull-in heifers have a good time and they don't eat. And then they go back to eat when they're hungry and they want to have something which is highly digestible. So they select the clover. The biggest places I was having it was on stewardship grassland. So the grass is rubbish because they've just stitched clover into it. And therefore, they're definitely going for the clover, and then they've got their legs in the air. But if you've got a mixture of a high-quality digestible grass to go with it, that's got the energy source to manage the protein, you don't really have it. So again, it's back to choosing the grasses that go with this clover. It's a whole thing. But if we give these cows the choice, they will show a 70% preference for going for clover, and they will graze it differently within the day. So in terms of how they're grazing on that slide there, you can see between milkings, early morning, late afternoon. When the cow goes out in the morning after milking, she will choose to eat clover. She wants a Mars bar, quick fix, high energy, quick diet. And in the evening, when she's going to lie down and chew her cud more, she'll take a more fibrous grass. So giving them the choice is actually showing that they do have a choice. So how you blend your mixtures to get your clover and manage your clover becomes important. It also came through within the 7 weeks that the trial was there that eating those monocultures was increasing milk yield. It's an important thought to have before you move forward in terms of how do I manage my clover within the sward. When you think about how you manage your clover within your sward, I've told you, and you've already know by I'm sure, that you graze the grass at the 3-leaf stage, when you graze clover at the 5-leaf stage. Whatever controls this planet, universe, whatever, put these things together very well, because the turnover of leaf on a ryegrass is every 7 days, whatever it is on the climate, and it correlates to a 5-day clover leaf turnover. So actually the management of the two go hand in hand. So this picture here will show you that clover plant. It's creeping along on its Stolon. We'll talk about them in a bit. You've got your roots and your nodules. Each one of those leaves is a trifoliate leaf. So one leaf looks like 3 little leaves. And there are 5 on there. The growing point is right at the front. You will never kill that growing point, definitely not with a cow, because it will bury itself within the soil to protect itself. The only thing you'll do is stand on it and damage it. But you won't graze it out. Then you've got your 5 leaves come in. By the time that 6th leaf comes, your first leaf is now senescing and dying. So you need to be grazing that off rather than letting it go back in the ground. And it works with the same principle as your rotation on your grass. So managing is no different in terms of your grazing pattern, your rotation length and that type of thing. It's the same. We've seen today the difference in terms of quality, intakes, and those trace element uptakes are far, far greater. We won't dwell on it. Keeping it within the sward is what we're going to be talking about. The grazing pressure and the time will make the difference. So you can create a clover crash. You heard about clover crash this morning, about red clover. I discovered that we can do a clover crash with white clover. You can do it quite easily if you're on continuous grazing. So you need, the question that came this morning about why does my clover disappear in the winter? One of the answers could have been that you've grazed too hard all the way through the year. You think about how this plant grows and it creeps along the surface. If your stocking density is too hard and the feet are there trampling and poaching and causing damage to those stolons, you will break them up. You won't kill the plant, you'll just break them into smaller plants. But as the season gets more difficult and the weather conditions get more harsh, that plant relies on getting through the winter with the reserves that it's got in its stolons. If those stolons are not this long, but this long, and it's chucking a leaf up, and then you choose to graze it as well, it's got no reserve. It then dies. That's your clover crash. So being careful later on in the season as to how you finish your grazing is quite important. So you get lots of small plants. So the rotational grazing is giving you that benefit. Now I'll show you some of my experiments that I was involved with at IBERS, and we are funded for 3 years. An experiment from DEFRA or whatever, 3 years. So for 3 years, the stolon density, or the stolon length, in square meters per square meter, so you've got something like up to 100 meters of stolon in every square meter. That doesn't half keep the soil protected and the feet up, but you're treading it all the time. So in 3 years, we've said, all these treatments are fantastic. We've got massive clover quantity. Then DEFRA pulled the plug, or MAF at the time pulled the plug, and the money ran out. And I didn't have nothing to do, so I carried on looking at the experiments. Until some more money came in, and every one of those crashed in year 4. That's a massive release of nitrogen as the plant grows, and the ryegrass looked fantastic. But then when that's gone, you're struggling. So I don't want that clover to die on me at the end of year 3. Now you could stitch in new clover every so often, because this is happening on a 3 to 4 year cycle. So guys who say, I put clover in and after 3 years it's gone, this is what's happening. So you've got to think about how does the plant grow? So you start having a seed, that seed germinates. With everything Andre was saying this morning, you start getting a seedling, and a white clover plant has a taproot. In the first 12 months, it will have a taproot. It then creates a rosette round that taproot and starts shooting off stolons in different directions for it to move and survive within the ground. So you've got rosette plants, stoloniferous plants. After 12 months, 18 months maybe, that taproot decays. It disappears, and everything is depending on the survival of those stolons. You've got large plants at that point. If you continue pushing too hard through the winter or grazing too late into the winter, then you're increasing the opportunity for those plants to get damaged and broken up. You'll have slug damage, you'll have natural rot damage, there'll be all sorts of different things that will push that to be the case. And you will reduce the thickness of your stolon. So when the conditions are better, that you can actually get out and go on your hands and knees now, you need to have a look at the thickness of the stolon of your clover plants. If they're really, really thin, you're struggling. If you've got nice, thick stolons, then you've got a healthy plant. If you want to dig them up a little bit more, if you've got a bigger plant, you know you're going the right way. If you've got small plants, you're heading to a disaster. That continuous grazing that a sheep farmer might do, or somebody you might have a tack sheep coming onto your farm, then you're looking towards a clover crash. Putting in rotational grazing or keeping it up for a late silage cut or whatever it is, giving a chance for that plant to replenish its energy through those leaves to start thickening its stolons again will extend it through that winter. To be sure that was the case, I took 100 plug plants, already established little clover plants, and I put them into the ground into an existing ley, which already had clover and ryegrass and everything in it, but we had clover that I could recognize. So in the centers of it, it was completely white, whereas the other clover only just had a little bit of a white line and then it was green. Animals are colorblind, so they can't see the difference, but I could. So I put these 100 plug plants, and then I put a 6-inch nail in the middle, and then I could go and find that with my metal detector, put a 100 square centimeter quadrant over top of it, and I could see how that plant grew. So if I take you through continuous grazing versus rotational grazing, And this is how the plant was stretching across the grass, building on its size, and they're showing you how the rotational grazing was benefiting the clover plant. So by the time I did it, 68% of the original size was of continuous grazing. Rotational, I've got 308% more clover plant because the management is right in terms of how it develops. Okay? So rotational grazing is definitely the way you have to do it. So bad management, continuous close grazing, heavy winter stocking rate, bit of poaching, late heavy cuts of silage, undergrazing and rejection patches, that was mentioned today as well, all go against the quality of clover. Rotational grazing, mixed grazing, short enough silage cuts, makes sense to be talking about it there in terms of quality anyway, and winter control and rest periods, they have to happen. So weeds, that's another big thing. How do I control the weeds? Well, you have to live with a few docks maybe. Some people spray docks out, and when I go and have a look at what's there, most of the field is common bent, and it's got a higher feed, the dock has got a higher feed value than the common bent grass. So you have to think about what it is that you're trying to kill, what it is you're trying to keep. So a certain percentage of docks you can live with, but long, heavy silage cuts are going to create more. Heavy application of manures, you're going to get more. Overgrazing and poaching, you're going to open it up, you're going to get more. So all these things are going again. Lax grazing, you're going to get more. The same as overgrazing. Soil compaction, you're going to have. So all these basic things you have to get right if you want to manage any type of forage, to be fair. And then we've already heard of clover-safe sprays. There are clover-safe herbicides on the horizon. The research has been happening for many, many years. There's trial plots all over the country. I've seen them, and I'm actually quite impressed with what they're doing in terms of controlling docks. It's only a dock control. It's not a thistle control. But the thistle control, apparently, I'm told, is on its way. Sward heights or covers. Are you all measuring grass? Yeah? So you're all going to be familiar with covers and sward heights. I started with sward heights back in the 80s. Obviously, it's developed into covers. It's important to get that utilization. It's important to get that mouth size right in terms of utilization. It's important to get the D value, the ME, the energy, the protein, everything right between your grazing management. And really, it's not complicated. The problem when people get too much clover within their swards is, A, they're on tetraploids. If you want to graze, don't have tetraploids. 20% maximum in a mix. Because the tetraploids go up and they want to be grazed, they want to be cut. So they're leaving an awful lot of space under the bottom for either a dock or a clover to move into. You want diploids that can compete with that clover to stop that domination. You don't be using excessive nitrogen to push it back. You need to be using plant infrastructure. So too much is a bigger issue than too little. We've talked about too little in terms of how you're managing within the grazing rotation prop. I wasn't going to pick on any type of cow or anything else that's at fault. Take this one as an example. These guys are on their third rotation of grazing, and they're selecting what they want. And they don't like chicory. They've never seen it before, and they don't want to know. So what they're grazing then is the ryegrass and the clover, and they're hammering it. So that field is only getting half grazed, isn't it? So by the time they come round again, we've got more tussocky patches of chicory all going into stem. We've lost an awful lot of our grazing area. We're only farming half the field. And yet we would like them to put the whole thing into their diet because the mixture has been there designed for the diet of that rumen. So we want to try and get that grazed properly. But these fellas aren't doing it because the stocking density isn't high enough. So having enough numbers for a shorter period in time, taking everything off, will suit that clover far better. Because once you take that competition off the top, clover gets access to light, gets access to energy, and it will grow. But controlling grass and clover is all about your management techniques. The question about, is a kilo of clover enough? I can get 100% clover from 1 kilo. If I want to manage my grassland that way, I can knock it down to disappear if I want to manage it that way. It's how you manage. Of course, sometimes things do go out of control, and you can auto-correct it if you like. After third or fourth grazing round, you're going to have these tussocky patches from cow pats and everything else. So maybe you want to correct it now and again with some sort of cutting. The best thing is obviously to mow ahead. Take some of those heads off that might have developed, mow ahead, and of course if you mow ahead, then they're going to pick up the grass that would have been choking that clover. They're going to lick that up, and now you've got a nice clean residual to start again. that's going to favour your clover as well as manage your grass. This year is going to be a nightmare. If you can't manage your grassland within the first third of the season, you will never catch up on the next 2/3. So I'm not going to blame anybody this year as to how they're going to be able to manage their grassland. If things don't start to change fairly quickly, then it's always crisis management of how we're doing it. In terms of where we're going in terms of clover, some of these have already been hit. But again, a question, more control on end release. That is happening. That is being looked at in clovers, that how much N are they creating and when are they releasing it? Because I used to stand here and talk to organic farmers and say, you are the most polluting buggers, and I swore because I meant to, in the whole world, because you can't control when your nitrogen is released. If it's coming out of a bag, at least you know what's going on. But when clover releases it late season, it's in the river, unless it's held in the soil organic matter. So having plants that we know release their clover over a period of time or can hold it through the winter will survive for longer. And that's what a lot of the breeding is about. Increasing the protein quality, well, they've done a great job in that. Clover, red clover for silage, that was another question. Red clover for silage rather than lucerne, the protein quality within a red clover is far greater than it is in lucerne. You do a crude protein analysis, it doesn't really tell you in terms of animal performance. The tolerance of nitrogen applied, well, that's a bit of an iffy one, but if you really do want to be a high-end input, you can get clovers that will withstand that nitrogen. The biggest thing, persistency. We want it to last. We don't want to be having to put things in all the time, and that is improving as well, which I'll show you in a minute. Compatibility with the grasses. I talked to you briefly about that. Getting the right grasses to go alongside that clover is important. Challenge your suppliers in terms of why they're putting these mixtures together, because you really need things to blend nicely. Herbicide resistance, what a disaster, I don't want to see that. Subspecies crossing, well, we've already heard a bit about that, everlasting being one of the first through the door. Soil improvement, hugely important for all of us, and biodiversity. So in terms of, this is pictures, again, of what's happening. The ones on the left-hand side of the picture, disappearing. That's a 3-year red clover. But the next one to it is the genetic development for a 5-year red clover. That's all Paul taught you about this morning. Didn't show you the 7-year red clover, which is on its way. Didn't tell you because he doesn't know when, but it's there. Got to jump through all the hoops, but a 7-year red clover is going to change everything. And I'm talking about red clover because I haven't done yet, because red clover doesn't really suit grazing. But then we've got stoloniferous red clover. A red clover that's got the attributes of a red clover in every way, but it's got some of the attributes of a white clover in terms of how it creeps and survives. And that's on its way. So all these things are changing, but they do take time. Just to show you the importance of having the mixtures right. This is work that I was involved with or have a connection to that was done independently in Harper Adams. And collected data for us over 5 years or so, and they are mixtures that I'm involved with. The 2 black lines, I haven't told you what they are because I don't want to be commercial. The 2 black lines are the standard ryegrasses and hybrid ryegrasses. It's solid as a hybrid and aberdart as a high sugar grass, standard ryegrass. That's what those are doing on their own. Some people ask, why don't we just do monocultures or that sort of thing? This is why. Everything above has got clover in it. It's also got a combination of different types of grasses in it. So take the easiest one, the red one. The red one is a short-term hybrid perennial ryegrass and red clover ley. It's designed to last for 4 years. It's doing 20 tons of dry matter. It's up there for silage cutting, and it disappears over that 4-year period. Bear in mind, 2018 was a real drought. The darker of the green ones is a standard, well, not a standard, it's my standard, white clover long-term grazing ley. It is producing pretty much the same as the red clover one, except for that early period. And that clover has given us a hell of a step up. The green one is a mixture of 45% ryegrass, red clover, white clover, herbs, cocksfoot, timothy. all these things that might have an issue in terms of not quite as good as grazing as the ryegrass, but they don't have to hang around. They produce the yield, and they're still there at 2 tons of dry matter per hectare more on a drought year. I'd take that 2 tons of dry matter. The recovery period after that is far better as well. So I give you those sort of figures like that. The red clover in the middle, 75, 76 tons of dry matter within that 4 to 5 years. The white clover blend of grasses, including quality ryegrasses and herbs and white clover, is doing 76.8. The white clover is doing 67, and the grass on its own is only doing 59. What is the value of a ton of dry matter? I came out of Reaseheath College in South Wales the other day, and they'd valued their ton of dry matter 197 quid. Yeah, it was higher than I was expecting them to tell me. But I'd have put it 150 at least. But put it 150. They got it 197. That many extra tons of dry matter for that ley that's not going to cost you hardly any difference is a massive win to have that legume, white clover, red clover, whatever it is, into that system, providing you manage it right. Can I comment? So what I'm saying to you, and I have no idea how long I've taken to do this, but perhaps we'll have plenty of time for questions or not, is to manage it well, to do the grazing right, we've got to be measuring things. We've got to know what our grazing heights or covers are. We've got to know what our rotation length has to be. We've got to know what our stocking rates need to be. So you've got to have a monitor. You've got to plan that grazing system to fit that clover and that ryegrass. To be flexible, because seasons like this demand that we're flexible. Use silage as a catch crop rather than king next door. Mow ahead if you really need to. Don't mow behind, and don't top, for goodness sake. Don't waste that cheap feed and replace it with expensive, because that's what a lot of the industry is doing. The season and the climate affect the performance of the plant greatly, but how you manage it afterwards means whether you win or lose. The basics of getting your soils, your nutrients, your species, your yield, your quality, the longevity, the efficiency are all part of how you do this. And the good guys can manage clover because they're looking at all these little extra details that get you there. So the grazing methods, done properly, will certainly benefit everything. Doing badly, they'll go against you. Rotationally grazing and the balance of that growth and utilization is a massively important thing. And it's about looking after the animal as well as the sward. You can go one way or the other, but you'd like to be in the middle. Pay attention to what you're doing because these small improvements are large gains. There are too many farmers doing this at the moment. But when we start thinking about it, we get these challenges, we start planning, and we start achieving things. And I know we can do it, because we do regularly. Thank you. Questions?
Thank you very much, Charlie. Brilliant, fascinating presentation there. Thank you. One quick one from me before we open it up, because I know we've got some coming up. How thick? You said a thick Stolon. How thick? You know, when we're crawling on our hands and knees.
Yeah. Well, I didn't talk about clover plant size. So obviously, a small leaf clover to a medium to a large is going to be different. First of all, if we're grazing, forget about large. They're not going to fit. They're going to disappear very, very quickly. If you're thinking about rotational grazing and silage cutting, then it's a medium leaf clover. Now, I can drop names into this in terms of the importance of variety. So the one that's been round since day dot, it feels like, is a variety called Aberdai. It's not a new white clover at all. It's a medium size, but when it's put under grazing pressure, it'll revert to a small leafed style clover. So if you want to cut it for silage, it gets to a medium leaf size. If it gets grazed a bit hard, it becomes smaller. That's the sort of intraplant plasticity that the scientists used to call about, having that chance to change. Another variety out there is called Iona, just to show that I'm not saying Aber for everything. Iona will be another one that can do that, have those characteristics. On that type of plant, you're looking at a diameter of 3 to 5 mil. That plant's going to be pretty healthy if you've got that. If it's getting to struggle, it'll be down to 1 to 2 mil. If it's a smaller plant, then it'll be slightly down on that, but it'll be at least 3 mil on the smaller plant.
It's That's brilliant. Perfect context. Thank you. Got a question down here.
Yeah, thank you, Charlie. Herbal leys, multi-species swards, whatever you want to call them, where do they fit in with the clover? And should we be extending our rotation length to get the best out of them?
Right, where do they fit in? Well, I don't want to know about SFI and all that jazz, because that's a financial win-win-win sort of, but it's not a win. I want to convince you to have what your business needs. And would I say, therefore, you have herb rich within that? I would say to you, forget chicory, because it's much more difficult to manage because it stems. If it goes dry, it comes like a stem and then it gets rejected. If it ends up in a bale, it punctures the plastic. All these things, I don't really want chicory in a dairy grazing system, but I will take plantain. Because plantain's far more manageable. It'll come up to that height where you want to go in and graze, and it'll sit and wait for you. The longer you wait, the poorer the quality starts to drop off, but it just sits and waits because they eat the flower head as well. The question is, what's the point of having it? Because the grass and the clover is doing everything for you. The reason we have it, or the reason I've discovered that I want it, is because that root will drive down deeper than anything else, faster than anything else. And if it'll survive for 2 years, it'll give the opportunity for that ryegrass root to get down, that clover root to get down, and that water and nutrients to be held and pushed up and down that profile far, far better. So when I've done half fields with herbs and half fields without, and I go there with my spade a couple of years later after they've gone, 3 years later after they've gone, my soil conditions and my soil quality is far better where they were than if I just put a standard lay in. Therefore, the longevity of my standard lay is going to be longer. In terms of grazing lengths and periods, the further west you go and the more rain you get, the lower the dry matter of that plant is, and it's hardly worth grazing. If it was when it first came into the country and as a pure stand, I was trying it, and I was doing it with some lambs in Pembrokeshire, and they were losing 149 grams a day, even though we had plants like this, because it was, and if you did the analysis, it was 19% protein and all this palaver, all fantastic. Nobody looked to see that it was only 4% dry matter. So their belly was full of water. So therefore, to me, it has to go with a quality ryegrass and clover to have any binding of the fibre within the rumen to get anything out of that protein. The tannin level of it will help maybe increase the protein quality, but really, it's there for me as a soil control, a soil improver. Would it?
So the question was, would it help with bloat?
Yeah. Will it help with bloat? Yes. If it's got a high tannin level, it's going to help with bloat.
Excellent. But
you've got to convince them to eat it. And that's, again, down to your grazing management to get them to come in there. And you've got no choice. You're going to eat it. Once they've got a taste for it, they will eat it. But if you let them choose, they'll choose not to. So your stocking density, your paddock size, and your animal numbers, the grazing density is the key to getting that to work. But I wouldn't change your system to try and meet the herbs, because you'll lose other things more important.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Any more questions? We've got. We'll take these two, I think, and then we'll.
Got a sweat on now.
We'll round up. Thank you.
Just touching on your £197 a tonne of dry matter.
Yeah.
Can you just explain what that's based on?
No. Because that came from a college, and I was astounded that that was the case. I would have had it more at around £150.
Sorry, what college?
Reaseheath College in Carmarthenshire. And that was the value, and that's a dairy hotspot, and that's the level they had it on. Now that could have been based on fertiliser prices of historic value and that type of thing. By today, I would think I would be £150 a tonne. If you tried to sell it, you wouldn't get 150 for it, mind.
Thank you. Next question.
If the bigger growth rates in many cases is a response to the nitrogen, and there's massive tonnage dry matter growth, Is there any factor of depleting other nutrients by that extra growth being taken off and harvested from that land?
Yeah, that's a fair question. Not if it's grazed. Not very much if it's grazed, because it's recycled back in. So phosphate and potash, although it'll be taken up more for the growth rate, sulfur and everything else, it will go back. It's only when you start taking your silage crop away that you really start to deplete that. So it should self-feed. Okay. And the other thing that we're going for as well now is lower phosphate. When I was working on low input systems at IBERS, we were looking at Lotus caniculatus, the bird-foot trefoil as well. Trouble with bird-foot trefoil, it doesn't like agronomic management. It wants to flower and it needs to do this to set some seed, and it's been a hell of a difficult plant to try and deal with. But if we can get some of those characteristics of that bird-foot trefoil into a clover, then you can manage low phosphates. So therefore, it's an even better win. Then you can grow the yield you want, and you can be looking at an index 1 for your phosphate rather than index 2. And that's on its way.